In fact, this is the point where we stopped in the previous class, but let me see the chat first. So the previous to previous week or the previous class, we started the discussion on cost of production, which I said it is the other side of the coin. If you take the one side of the coin as the production, the other side of the coin is the cost of production, because when you need to increase the output, when we want to increase the output, definitely we need to increase the input. So because we have the relationship, input and output. When we increase the input, we get the output. But to increase the input, we need to bear some cost. So whenever we increase the input, then we need to bear the cost. Right? Therefore, when we increase output, that automatically change our level of cost. If we increase the output, that automatically increase the cost. Therefore, there is a direct relationship between production and cost of the production. We discussed that. And then we started the discussion on the cost of the cost function, which is having two scenarios. One, the short run, and the other is the long run. As we discussed with the production functions, right, it is the same. When we say the short run is the period in which we are having at least one fixed input. I hope you remember. In the production functions, we learn there will be at least one fixed input. Since we are having fixed input, we need the fixed cost, because the money that we spend on fixed input is known as the fixed cost. Therefore, we learned in the previous class, in the short run, we are having fixed cost and the variable cost. So therefore, we can define the total cost as the fixed cost and the variable cost. Then we discuss about the average cost, marginal cost, and all these cost functions. In fact, that is what we wanted to discuss. For example, let's discuss after some time. So what to do with the power cuts and so on. So just for the moment, just forget about the exam. Let's finish the subject. And when we finish the subject, let's discuss about the exam. Because there's a question about the exam. Okay. Then today, using those functions, we can define the cost curves. Graphically, we can represent those cost functions, which is easy to digest. If you look at this function, you will see there's a relationship with the production function. Production function, which was something like this, if you remember. It was something like this, right? So here we learn that in the short run, what happens in the beginning, output will be increased at an increasing rate. When we increase our input, because we are having only one input, this is the thing we learn. So we are having two inputs, so one will be fixed. So we will be keeping that input fixed, and we increase the variable input. When we increase the variable input with the equal amount, what happens to our output? It will be increasing at an increasing rate. So this part, if you remember, it was increasing at an increasing rate, and then it was increasing. It was increasing, but at a decreasing rate. It was decreasing. And after some time, it was decreasing. That was the relationship in the production function. If you put the same analysis here, when you increase your input with the same amount, your output will be increasing at an increasing rate. Then what should happen to the cost? Your output is increasing in an increasing rate, whereas you are increasing your input at the same rate. Then what should happen to the cost? Cost should be decreasing, because your output is increasing at an increasing rate, your input increasing at the same rate. So therefore, cost should be decreasing. Then when it turns into the other way around, increasing at a decreasing rate, then your cost will be increasing at an increasing rate, like this. So up to here, cost increasing at a decreasing rate, and then it will be increasing at an increasing rate, and thereafter it will be continuously increasing. This is why I said cost and production and cost of production are the two sides of the coin. Right. So there's a direct relationship. Therefore, we can see the same behavior, but the inverse of that. So we say inverse of the production function can be seen with the cost function. So therefore, total cost function will be behaving like this. In the beginning, it will be increasing at a decreasing rate, and then increasing at a increasing rate, and will be continuously increasing. So using the same total cost curve, we can define the variable cost curve. In fact, the behavior of the TC or the total cost curve depends on the behavior of the TVC or the total variable cost. Total variable cost, as we learned in the previous class, total variable cost means the money or the expenditure that we spend on the variable inputs, right? So variable inputs starts from zero. This is because if you do not have any production, then there will not be any variable cost. Take my simple example, our cafeteria. If the university closed for 2 weeks, there will not be any cooking in our cafeteria. So therefore, the cafeteria owner will not buy any rice, will not buy any vegetable, will not buy any meat. So there is no any variable cost. But the fixed cost will be there. Of course, that building is there, cooking utensils are there, right? So the fixed cost will be there, but variable cost is not there if you are not having any production. Therefore, variable cost start from zero and move like which I mentioned previously, increasing at a decreasing rate and then increasing at the increasing rate. So that is the behavior of the total variable cost. So depending on the shape of the total variable cost, we observe the behavior of the total cost. You can see it is same. If you measure this distance will be the same, always. Even though it is feeling like getting closer, the distance is the same. What is the distance between TVC and TC? In fact, that distance is this one. This one. This is known as, this area known as the fixed cost. Right? That is starting not from zero, somewhere above there, because the fixed cost, irrespective of whether we are producing anything or not, we have to bear that expenditure. So therefore, the difference between TVC and TC is the fixed cost. This distance can be observed at all the places. Right? We can show that like this. And this is. So this is the total fixed cost. Or we call it TFC. So TVC plus TFC is known as TC. So this distance can be observed at all the places. Then we discussed about the average variable cost and average cost. In fact, that is what we are really interested. Rather than total cost curve, we are really interested with the average cost curve, because these are the important curves that we are using in our analysis. So given the average product, we have the shape of the average variable cost. If you remember our average cost, it was like this. So in the beginning, average product, P curve. AB curves, in the beginning, it was increasing. That is, output per one labor unit was increasing. If output per one labor unit, that the incremental labor unit increasing. So what does it mean in relation to the cost? When the average product or cost output per one labor unit is increasing, that will decrease the cost. So cost will be decreasing. When we are having increasing level of output, cost will be decreasing. And then when output per one labor unit is decreasing, when output per one labor unit is decreasing, that automatically increase the cost. So therefore, we see the increasing cost. So therefore, the average cost function behave like this. Again, the behavior of ATC depends on the shape of AVC, or average variable cost. That is, average output per one labor unit can be achieved through two costs. One is the fixed cost, the other is the variable cost, as we discussed with the total variable cost curves. So therefore, average total cost will have two components: average variable cost plus the average fixed cost, which we say AFC. So you can see this distance. So in fact, my drawing are not that good. So then you see some difference. Otherwise, there can't be a difference. AFC should be fixed. Then later, in the next discussion about the market structures, perfectly competitive market and the monopoly market structure, we will be using this cost curve. So therefore, remember the shape of the cost curves, especially ATC and AVC. And finally, we have the MC, like MP, which we discussed in the previous class. So when we say MP, that is the marginal product or incremental value of the total product due to a change in one labor unit. So we increase the labor inputs by 1 unit, then we see what is the change in output. That is known as marginal product. The same way, when we put the same concept into the cost, we can say marginal cost, or the MC or the marginal cost, mean cost per, the incremental cost of if we increase our input by 1 unit. If it is labor, when we increase labor by 1 unit, what is the cost that is generating in the total cost, or generating to the total cost? So with this graph, we can explain that using the output. So when we increase our output by 1 unit, here we are increasing output by 1 unit, what is the additional cost generating to the total cost? This is known as marginal cost. So we discussed this in the previous class, how to calculate that. We can simply use the differentiation. If we get the first order derivatives of cost function, or the total cost function, we get the marginal cost function. So anyway, as I mentioned previously, MC, ATC, AVC are very much important in our decision making in the different market structure, be it perfectly competitive, monopoly, or any other like monopolistic, competitive, duopoly, or oligopoly. Whatever it is, these cost curves are very much important. Therefore, remember the shape of the cost curves in the short run.